Anyway, I needed to make this video because there's a discussion right now in global, and it's something people have talked about in New World, and it's just, this is one of the worst programmed games I've ever seen. There's so much shit about this game that is like inexcusable, entry level, the most basic fundamental stuff that's just overlooked, and it's so obvious that anyone who gives like the main scripting engineers of the game credit is just a complete moron. And I want to clarify what I mean when I say the main scripting engineers. Like, I mean, this is an example. Everyone's spamming go to malevolence, go to malevolence. Why are they doing that? Because they programmed monsters that don't respawn. They spawn once every server reset, and the only time they respawn is when the server restarts. So, if you're not a programmer, you need to understand how fundamentally baseline this is. When I kill this, the server says that's dead, and then a timer runs, probably a baseline of 2 minutes, and then add some random variants in there, plus minus 30 seconds, and that's the respawn timer. And that's how all respawn timers on everything work. The star medal, the base is 16 minutes, and then plus minus the size. Really simple. And they did that. They got that good. The problem comes when they wanted to do special cases. When they wanted to do things like malevolence, where malevolence has... I have 10 minutes. I don't need a recall yet. Malevolence has monsters that spawn, and then after you kill those monsters, then the boss spawns. So it's not as simple as saying, boss is dead, start timer, when timer's up, spawn monster. But it's still very easy. It's super easy. Because all you need to do is run the update check for the original ones. Is the monster that they spawn alive? Because it's just like Stanley. Stanley is a rabbit on in Restless Shores, where when you kill Stanley, it spawns a ghost. Okay, so all you need to do on the spawn timer for Stanley is say, is the ghost alive? Every time you do the check for if you should spawn him. Okay, and then you do the reverse with the ghoul, where do we respawn the ghoul? No. Why don't we respawn the ghoul? Because X. That's like extremely simple. And the fact that it's broken, and it has been broken, not just for like, it's not like it's been broken for a week, oh they'll fix it, 2 weeks, it's been months! A lot of these spawn problems have been problems since the alpha, or before. And like, that's pathetic. That's pathetic. They had to shut down the economy again. Why? Because client-side authentication duping. And I know people might say, oh, but read the blog post from the ex-dev. He said it's not client authoritative. It is. It is. You have an item. The item is tracked to you. And then you say, okay, trade this to this person or whatever. And it says, okay, trade goes through. Very cool. Now the server says, alright, did this person receive the weapon or thing? Yes. Alright, go back to the client and delete it. What? And if the client doesn't get the request to delete it, it just stays there. Like, All these problems are literally, if you've ever taken a software engineering course, they are engineering 101. They are the most basic, fundamental things, like race conditions. If you've worked any programming job ever that uses networking, these race conditions or these, like, not consistent data between a client and a server are... You learn them as an intern, as a first year. You learn them in college. They should not be happening in a $40 game. In a professionally developed game. They absolutely should not be happening. And it's pathetic that they do. Because the fix is so simple. It's so unimaginably simple that it's still just pathetic. I'm just telling my guild to go to Malevolence. And if you're curious, like, what the actual fix for that is, you leave it on the server, so the server keeps control of the item, and then you transfer it. So when I say trade, it deletes it from me first. That's the first line. And then say the person receiving it disconnects. They don't receive the item. Well, that's fine. And why is it fine? Because your server should have some built-in re-authentication message. It should know on the server that a request was sent, send an item to this person, and they never got it. So all you need to do is a queue of these requests that you constantly keep, and then you constantly update. You have to just keep resending requests until it's valid. That's how all eventually consistent data works. All eventually consistent data works. Maintained on the server, and you keep sending requests until eventually the request gets through. And you periodically send updates, or you periodically make it longer and longer between. But here's the thing, like, when somebody reconnects to the game, the server now knows they're online. So, like, say somebody lags out some messages. Oh, they didn't receive them. How do we know they're still online? You don't, and that's fine. So after a certain number of retries, it stops, which the game already does, by the way. But then it never starts again, because they don't have the infrastructure for a constant back-end queue. Why? Why don't they have that? That's very easy to do. I implemented that in my last job. I don't know why they don't have it. Again, it's sad and, like, inexcusable that they don't. Now well, I already talked about the Malevolence boss not respawning. I wouldn't even loot this elite chest, not worth it. But there's so many of these issues. Like, I don't want to go on a long... Oh, now it's 2:48 p.m. That's good. It sucks that rolling back the server 5 weeks. And the problem, again, is that their fix for this isn't to do what I said. Their fix for this is to individually patch each individual instance of possible exploiting. So they fixed the gold money dupe. Well, that's good. But there's still a trophy dupe. There's still 3 different other ways to dupe money. So they had to go fix one of those. And these have been problems for, like, weeks or months that people have reported. And the only time they get fixed is when someone, like a Twitter post gets a certain virality. Like, they don't even check their forums for, like, literally, like, if you've worked in a software company that has to always be online, software as a service company, these are inexcusable. These are 7-1 issues, all hands on deck, get everybody in, shut it down, fix it immediately. And they just let it go. They just let it go. It's cool. You know, we'll get to it. Oh, a lot of people know about it now. Shit, I guess we have to fix it. Guess we've got to fix it now that a lot of people know about it. Oh no. Damn, that's pretty bad. Damn, a lot of people know about it. Guess we gotta fix it now. Like, it's pathetic. It's so bad. And again, like the back-end technology needed for an MMO is hard. You need a lot of tech to do the back-end for an MMO, and I will praise the back-end developers for the work they did on the game's performance. Because it is hard to do. It's hard to have like 80 people in an instance and casting abilities, and that not be at like 1 FPS, let alone like even 30. That's still good. That's still good. But the front end guys, the people that ran the quests, like there's so much shit that has not been fixed. It's unbelievable. Like, the art team is fantastic, but the people who like put all the like node instances in places, they're pathetic. There's things that are out of place, geometry that just is not there, that doesn't work. And it's been like that. Again, it's not like people haven't discovered it. It's not like they don't know. Or maybe they actually don't know and they're just flat out ignorant. They're just like extremely ignorant. Because it's like it's an MMO. You have hundreds of thousands of people finding these things for you. And fixing things like this is easy. It's like there's a node that's in the ground somewhere over... Where's Great Cleave? Up here, I think. Where's the path? It's like somewhere up here. There's an orichalcum node that's just in the ground. Why? People have known about it. They've posted forum threads about it. All the exploits have been known about. Like, look at this. I have an empower buff. This is from a fire staff. I don't have a fire staff equipped. Like, it's inexcusable, the amount of exploits that there are in this game. And the level of, like, effort to fix them is so simple. And the fact that they got through in the first place, like, the fact that these things got through their development cycle in the first place is, again, pathetic. If you've ever worked at a software company of almost like any scale, where you write the code, and then someone code reviews for you, and then you have automated tests, and then you have manual tests, and then you have staging environment, and then you have a production environment. And it's not even like a lot of these things are hard to test. Like, for instance, they fixed it, but the fireball impact bug was a bug since alpha that took them like a year to fix. And all that was a messed up negative sign. But I just told you, they have to go... Most competent development companies go through 5 levels of review on a change. And I get it, it's a game, they want to push through. Maybe they're strapped for time they don't have time to do. But no one peer-reviewed and say, hey, your impacting fireball number is a minus, not a plus. Nobody tested it. Nobody just put on a fire staff and shot a fireball at an enemy and said, hey, wait a minute, that ain't right. It's laughable. All of the developers that worked on that should be embarrassed. They're amateurs. And what I think happened is Amazon Game Studio outsourced half the code. Like, their team was probably the engineers who did the back end, and then they outsourced the rest of it. Like, their team made the back end engine, and they made the artwork. And then they're like, hey, You see these monsters that should be here? Just outsource it to someone who probably English isn't their primary language. And I'm not saying that to insult any other language speaker. I'm saying that because something was clearly lost in translation. If negatives are pluses everywhere, if minus reductions are actually plus reductions, or reverse, if plus reductions are negative, like something went wrong somewhere in translation for a lot of these things. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to call myself a software developer for a game and then have these people be my peers. But what's even worse is the people giving these people the pass. Why are you giving them the pass? For how fucking bad the coding is. Why? I don't understand why you're giving them this much leeway. Like, I've worked in stressful jobs before, where I have deadlines, I have things to worry about. And we still go through the review process. No change is not vetted. No change is not vetted. There has to be some kind of review process. There just has to be. And the fact that there isn't is pathetic. It's like actually pathetic. Like, the amount of exploits, bugs, and just sheer laziness from the developers is just sad. Like, I bet you, if you were to go for that forums.newworld for details, you would not find any information on why there's downtime right now. You wouldn't. You absolutely would not. It's sad. It really is sad. I need a tag on this guy. But I don't think we could kill him with the amount of people up here. There's only just 3 up here. I'll probably just go down below and then run up with the rest of the people. Like, look at this. It's an entire server of people that are all waiting for a single boss to respawn because they can't fix the coding on a very basic thing. Like, there are mobs here that you kill. After you kill the mobs, you spawn the boss. So why is that so hard to fix? I don't understand why they haven't fixed it yet. They had bosses that would instantly respawn. How? How is your spawning system so bad that you can only handle the most baseline entities? Where something dies, hits a timer, it respawns. But everything else, where something spawns because of something else, was broken at launch. And it's been broken since alpha. People reported these things. It's honestly, like, I know this is like a silly rant, but listen, if you've ever worked on a game, you should know that there's no excuse for this stuff. If you've ever worked at a software company, and if you haven't, you need to understand that these are not, like, complex things. Like, I've made games before, and you can see them on this channel. Making something like an animation system hard. The animation team did a great job. The sound team did a great job. But making it so the UI reflects the weapon you have out is easy. It's really easy. The design for it's simple. Like, you press a button, and then the game says swap weapon, and then the UI says, oh, you pressed a button, swap weapon. But if something on the server says you couldn't swap the weapon, or maybe something in the game says you couldn't, but the UI says you did, it still does it. So the UI is not responding to the player, the UI is responding independent of the player. It's responding to the key press. For the most part. It's pathetic. It's just bad. It's just bad practice. It's like every issue that they have is just naive implementation of everything. It's like, if I were to task somebody who's never done something like this before with making it, that's what you would come up with. So when people go and compare it to games like, oh, do you remember Fallout 76, bro? Oh, do you remember Cyberpunk? All new releases are this bad, bro. No, they're not. Because the problems in those games are entirely different. The problem with Fallout 76 was a back-end thing and an engine thing. That was a higher-up decision that fucked up. Whereas these are all individual programmer-level mistakes that all added up to this being garbage. Cyberpunk. Art team did a fantastic job for the most part. The animation team and the people that worked on the engine needed more time, which they didn't have. The scripting and all that, I honestly don't remember too much of it because I never played it, but I know it was horrible. But like the cop AI is a very good one, where, oh, the player, or out of the player's point of view, on enemies. That's a very naive, very basic. That was like we've got 1 month before the game comes out. We need the cop AI working, for the cop spawning system. And they gave it to a first level engineer, and they said, alright, implement this. And he said, alright. And they didn't have time to code review it. That's another example of all of New World, where they gave it to someone, and they said, we need this done. And it's someone who clearly has no experience doing it, and they made it. But that, with Cyberpunk, is one instance. With New World, it's everything. Literally every aspect of the game is like that. Again, besides the fundamentals. And when I talk about fundamentals, it's this stuff. It's the art, it's the server system, it's the animations, it's the gear equipping, you know? Everything besides that. Because these, and when people say they ran out of time, making this takes time. It takes a shitload of time. Making this takes time. Making this takes time. Doing the programming as a programmer is infinitely faster. And there's just no excuse. And people need to stop giving the developers of this game a pass. Again, the art team gets a pass. They did fantastic. The sound team, fantastic. Animations, also fantastic. The programmers are a joke. They're a joke. And people have to stop giving them the pass. Because this game had to get shut down. Our server had to get shut down again. Trading had to get disabled again. You know, that's really all there is to it. I mean, I'm still playing it. But the reason I'm still playing it is because the art team, the animation team, and the sound team. It's not because of the programmers. Yep. Well, if you've listened this whole way, I applaud you. This probably was not very entertaining, but I had to do it. Anyway. See you around.